The film opens with a captivating beginning. Dr. Charles, the innovative founder of the Whiteness Research Center, and Professor Ostergaard, the distinguished head of the center, participate in interviews discussing their groundbreaking discovery. They explore the concept of the paraverse, an extraordinary phenomenon linked to psychokinesis, representing the human brain's ability to explore parallel universes. Amidst this backdrop of scientific marvel, the narrative takes a darker turn as a woman concealed in darkness becomes embroiled in a perilous pursuit. Helicopters thunder overhead and armed personnel calm the ground, relentlessly chasing her. Unconscious and bound to a chair, a sudden and jeering scream awakens her, plunging her into a state of sheer panic. Despite her desperate cries for help, her pleas go unanswered. Above her, an unfeeling camera systematically records every move, adding a disturbing layer of surveillance to her confinement. The narrative then takes a mysterious and intense turn as the protagonist, Jane, finds no solace in the night while attempting to rest on the cold floor. Her fragile sleep is interrupted by the haunting voice of Ostergaard in her mind, discussing the experiment's potential to unlock boundless possibilities within the human psyche. This moment signals a surreal shift in Jane's reality as she abruptly finds herself in an alternate version of the house where she is confined the next day. During a brief respite, Jane, engaged in setups, hears an enigmatic whistling sound. Intrigued, she investigates and stumbles upon a concealed passage beneath a loose floorboard. As she attempts to descend the stairs, her mind is inundated with perplexing flashes of images, and suddenly, she is back at the top of the stairs. In an unwavering pursuit of escape, Jane repeatedly tries to navigate the staircase, only to be inexplicably transported back to the starting point each time. This cycle of unsuccessful attempts continues until nightfall, leaving Jane thoroughly exhausted and disheartened. The surreal and disorienting experience deepens with Jane's discovery of multiple instances of the same clothing, with one set discarded by her and another draped around her neck. Ostergaard's voice echoes in the background, discussing the imperative nature of the subject feeling genuine danger for the success of the experiment. Despite the perplexing nature of her reality, Jane remains resolute. Returning to the attic, she uncovers the same hidden passage, confronting the same perplexing loop of events. The tension heightens with her discovery of a barricaded door and a subsequent encounter with two men searching for her, adding to the stakes of her quest for freedom. After eluding the pursuers, Jane's exploration of the house leads her to a piano, triggering another memory linked to Ostergaard's research on the universal wave function. Armed with newfound determination and a kitchen knife, Jane finally manages to free herself from her restraints. Stepping outside, she breathes in the fresh air, relishing her newfound freedom, only to be confronted by fresh challenges. Her attempt to escape using the car in the garage is thwarted as the engine fails to start, leading to another disorienting flash of light that renders her unconscious. Shortly thereafter, her experience is reset with a subtle change. Upon reaching the piano, she notices a different photograph, a detail diverging from her previous encounters. This discovery triggers a sound, prompting her to venture outside. A map found in the glove compartment becomes her next clue. Outside, the world appears deserted, except for distant blimps and the unsettling presence of dogs and men, forcing Jane into hiding. A severe headache and visions of alternate versions of herself compound her distress, ultimately leading to her waking up back in the attic once again. Undeterred, Jane sets out on the same path, gathering supplies from the tools. Despite injuring herself in the process, she revisits the car, re-examines the papers, retrieves the map, and surprisingly, the car starts, momentarily offering a glimmer of hope. However, goal to explore the subject's ability to predetermine possibilities and potentially control reality. Each reset marks a step in the experiment, accompanied by Jane's psychological overload. Determined, Jane drives out of the city, but a malfunctioning engine forces her to continue on foot. Finding a camper van, she is unable to start it, and a radio conversation with a mysterious woman hints at soldiers pursuing her. The connection abruptly cuts off, leaving Jane alone and weary. During the night, she overhears soldiers discussing her situation, with a gunshot and distant battle heightening the tension, though she remains hidden. The following morning brings a surprise. She hasn't been reset back to the attic. Feeling adventurous, Jane attempts to drive the van but is puzzled by the absence of keys in the ignition. Her journey is interrupted by the appearance of another version of herself on the road. This encounter leads to the van's engine dying, and a disoriented Jane experiences another reset after her compass malfunctions and visions become overwhelming. Ostergaard's explanation of infinite possibilities and the idea of choosing outcomes offers a glimmer of understanding into Jane's situation. In a surprising twist, Jane returns to the attic, seated in a different chair and without restraints, a small sign of progress. Repeating her actions with slight variations, she learns from each iteration of her experiences. This time, she opts for a different path on foot, recalling Ostergaard's words about infinite possibilities. Her determination leads her back to the camper van, successfully starting it. Bravely encountering the figure of herself on the road, she decides to drive through it, only to face another engine failure soon after. Jane's journey showcases her resilience and unveils the growing complexity of the experiment she's entangled in. She finds herself just 3 miles from the research center, as indicated by the map she examines. A voice on the radio reconnects with her, revealing that the speaker is also trapped in a similar ordeal and is roughly the same distance from the center. This woman on the radio implores Jane for help, suggesting that they're both pawns in an experiment conducted by scientists at the Whiteness Research Center. Jane's urgency heightens as the sound of helicopters signals potential danger, prompting her to flee into the woods under the cover of night with distant barks of dogs echoing behind her. As dawn breaks, she is drawn to a humming sound near a lake, and in a disorienting twist, she glitches and inexplicably finds herself on the opposite side of the lake. Across the water, she spots another version of herself, but a debilitating headache prevents her from calling out before this other Jane vanishes. Undeterred, Jane eventually reaches the Whiteness Research Center, momentarily distracted by a mysterious woman's voice. However, finding no one around, she proceeds toward the building. Spotting an old scientist engrossed in books, she remains unseen as she continues her search for an alternative entrance, eventually discovering an open back door. Inside, she overhears the voices of 2 scientists, but finds no physical presence. The mystery deepens as the library upstairs presents another peculiar scene. Unbeknownst to her, another version of Jane enters the chapel below. Her exploration leads her to a room filled with computers and CDs. Playing the CDs, she watches interviews of Dr. Charles and Professor Ostergaard, along with strange images and introductions to their experiments. She stumbles upon recordings of other test subjects, including another woman undergoing a similar journey who is also herself. This revelation, coupled with the realization of constant monitoring, triggers a panic attack in Jane, resulting in another reset. In her relentless pursuit of answers, Jane unlocks a door within her mind only to find herself in the location of another test subject's awakening. Confronted with yet another version of herself, Jane witnesses as this alternate Jane collapses, bleeding from her eyes, resulting in yet another reset. Throughout these encounters, Jane interacts with various versions of herself, each unveiling different facets of the time loop embedded in the experiment. One version elucidates that they are all trapped in an infinite loop, with each Jane destined to be entangled in the intricate web. Just as Jane attempts to comprehend this unsettling reality, another reset occurs. Exhausted and overwhelmed, Jane reaches a point of desperation, fervently wishing for the experiment to conclude. In a moment where she hears a voice preparing to disconnect her, the film abruptly plunges into darkness, leaving the audience with an open-ended conclusion that blurs the boundaries between reality and illusion. To watch more videos like these, turn on the bell notification and subscribe so you don't miss